Welcome to a lively experiment. My name is Jim Hagan, and joining us on this week's panel are State Representative John Laughlin, a Republican representing the people of Little Compton, Portsmouth, and Tiverton. Correct?
Correct.
I had that right.
Thanks for having me here.
Lou Pullner, prominent Rhode Island attorney and the legal analyst for WPRO Radio and WPRI Television.
Great to be back, Jim.
And WPRO radio personality, John DePetro. Always nice to have you, John.
Good to see you, Jim. Thanks.
And also Dave Lehman, the National Public Relations and Communications Consultant and former television anchor in many locations around America. He's everywhere. Okay, let's begin talking about former President Jimmy Carter. Been in the news the last few days. Did the former president... should he have done what he did?
Well, I certainly don't agree with him. I don't think it necessarily is racist to disagree with the President of the United States. Clearly there are a lot of his policies that people can take exception to, and I just think it mischaracterizes the situation to call that racism, to disagree with the President.
He lit a fuse at this time that just didn't need to be lit, and I think it's going to cause a lot of problems. And now, and just feeding off of that, anybody who disagrees, like, for example, Acorn, the investigations have shown that they're corrupt and that they're getting their funding pulled. Now, if you go against Acorn, they're also saying it's a matter of being racist because the people who were actually doing the fraud were black also. So now everything is going to become a racial issue, and it's all about prejudice, and it's because Obama's black, when I just don't see that as being the cause for the crisis. The crisis is people concerned about a government takeover of health care, not because President Obama is an African American.
Don't you think people are just simply frustrated with everything? I mean, whether it's the economy, unemployment,
sure. But it's not
health care,
race.
they're just frustrated.
But it's not race-related.
It's not race. I agree with you.
And that's where I think Carter just made a mess of everything.
I have to fall in line. Your arguments are right in line with mine. Are there people who will fight President Obama because he's black and they don't like blacks? Of course there are. But this happens to be a broad issue, probably the most expensive issue that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of years, and consequently, people are going to disagree with it, and they should. I wouldn't want to see any stifling of dissent on this. I don't know which is the right way to go on this. I've got my thoughts, but I want to hear as much about this as I can. And I think Jimmy Carter's heart is in the right place. Unfortunately, I don't think his mouth is.
Is Joe Wilson, John, a Representative Congressman Wilson, a racist?
I don't think he is. I think Joe Wilson, in some ways, it kind of symbolized a lot of the anger from the summer with a lot of the town hall meetings. I mean, that was inappropriate, and he did apologize. But to try to turn this around, what Carter did, Jim, was so dangerous and kind of yelling like, fire in a crowded theater, because the Clintons ran in against this when they were running against Barack Obama. To immediately go to the race card and say that those Tea Party people, because that's what he was saying. He saw the Tea Party rallies and felt it was based on race. I've spoken at two of them, and you see them around the country. These are people engaged. You want people to be active in government, and then when they do, to just turn it around and say, they're racist. You notice even the White House backed away from him.
Yeah, he really did, and probably from a political perspective, it was a good thing that he did back away. We were just listening to the sentiment of the people.
I would have liked to have seen him do more than just back away. I would have liked to have seen him made an emphatic statement to say, no, this is not about race, this is about policy.
Well, if anybody ought to be sensitive about this, if you think about it, it should be Jimmy Carter, because his book came out a couple of years ago and about the Arab-Israeli conflict, and a lot of people thought that they painted him as being a Palestinian sympathizer, which is one form of the same kind of discrimination. So I would think he would have been more sensitive to that, because he certainly rebuked people when they made accusations that he was anti-Israeli.
Yeah, what's funny, though, is this past Monday, Barack Obama and President Clinton had lunch in New York. And at the Kennedy funeral, you saw a nice moment with former President Clinton and Barack Obama chatting in the pews. I think this is just a jealous ex-president. It's kind of the third wheel left out of the loop. But the last thing the White House needs right now is another discussion on race. They want to focus on health care.
He was also pretty much responsible for bringing the Ayatollah back into Iran. So look what's happened over there. I'm sure the guy seems like a really decent individual, does some great things with Habitat for the Humanity, but it's probably time that he moved aside on public policy.
He's desperately searching for a legacy.
Exactly.
yeah, right.
Well, sweater sales was the legacy.
He should have just gone quietly into the night after he got the Nobel Peace Prize, because frankly, he has, other than that and Habitat for Humanity, I just haven't seen him doing much good.
Lou, you brought up Acorn.
Yeah.
Was Congress right in
Yes.
cutting the funding to their housing program?
Absolutely. I only wish that Senator Whitehouse had not been one of those dissenting 7 votes, and I'm grateful it passed, because, I mean, this wasn't an isolated incident.
Right.
These people went undercover as a prostitute and her pimp. They went to different states. I mean, and we just saw a systematic abuse of what they were doing with their money. And then on top of that, if they are supporting political candidates, and they ought not be, it just goes on and on. But I'm glad they got their funding cut. And I'm not saying that they're not a worthwhile organization. They certainly got a lot of cleanup to do.
You know, they certainly are a left-wing community organization group. They've been in Rhode Island. They certainly have harassed a lot of business people. They proposed things like $15 minimum wages. They proposed almost guaranteed employment for life. A lot of things that are just, if you put them in effect in Providence. They did have a fellow named Jerzyk, who is a very bright lawyer. He's a very bright guy and did a great job, I thought, for them. But the organization itself, I'm not sure. In fact, you know, just interesting quickly, I testified on the merger of Bank of America and Fleet. And when I went up to the Federal Reserve Board hearing, I sat next to the president of Acorn, the national president of Acorn. I said to her, I was shocked she was going to support the merger. And she said, well, we got a tremendous amount of funding from Bank of America. and Bruce Marks was there, who caused Fleet all that trouble, and he was going to support the merger, who basically said the same thing. And so it's funding. I mean, an organization like that needs funding. And when they reach out to whether it's big organizations or the federal government, I said, why would the federal government be funding them anyhow?
And they were in line to get a lot of stimulus money, a lot of money.
Billions.
So it's, I think the more that comes out about them, people are going to start to question where was all this money going and why were they receiving it. I don't think they were going to endorse John Lofton.
I didn't get their questionnaire.
I don't think so.
I'm sure they must have just missed that in the mail.
No,
but they did have Matthew Jerzyk was the fellow's name. He was a really good, smart kid. And also they had a woman from Brown University who was very bright and articulate. They were great. They led a great opposition.
But this raises a really serious question. If you're getting federal funds, why would you be endorsing candidates? I mean, there ought to be...
It's a conflict. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
It clearly is a conflict. I mean, you know...
And not only register people to vote.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, let them do what they...
Clearly Obama supporter, I'm sorry.
That's right. Let them do what they think they should do as an organization. That's fine. I mean, we're a country of many voices and many organizations. But if you're taking taxpayer money, you know, let's keep this line very finely drawn between political involvement and endorsement of candidates. To me, that's just not right. I don't have a say about that.
Why would Sheldon Whitehouse have taken the position that he took? He was only one of 7 United States senators that voted not to cut. Jack Reed did vote to cut. Why would he do that?
I don't understand that, Jim. I don't know what constituents he's representing. I mean, they are